Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gear Time here in our new studio in downtown Akron. We are very excited to be back.
Yeah, looks a lot like the old studio.
Doesn't it, though?
It does.
The shelves in front of a white wall. That was an easy studio to recreate. So we are here at the Mosher Media camera room at 388 South Main Street here in downtown Akron, our world headquarters. And of course, for many years, we were out there in Fairlawn. That was a great place to be in business. And of course, my kids went to Copley Fairlawn schools, and it was close to home. But now they've launched in life. And we have moved Mosher Media back to downtown Akron. We're excited to be here in the center of Summit County, center of the world. Really, Akron is a great place to be in business because if you wanted to, you could be in New York City in 6 hours.
Same thing with Chicago.
Chicago, 6 hours. This is a great place to store all the gear and vans, trucks, crew.
We're also conveniently halfway between Cleveland and Columbus, so
Oh, yeah.
got Northeast Ohio covered as well.
Oh, we have Ohio well covered. Absolutely. Speaking of having things well covered, your view of the video production industry, our view of it from Akron, Ohio, and maybe things are different in New York and Chicago and the rest of the world, but you've spent your career here in the Midwest, here in beautiful Akron, Ohio. What's changed since you graduated? Let's say you graduated from the University of Akron, Go Zips, in 2011?
2010.
2010. Oh, I was
Pretty
way
good,
off.
pretty good.
Okay. So what has changed in video production since you graduated college?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is how much better the gear has gotten. And I think that has raised the expectations of what's possible on low to mid budget shoots.
You made a comment one time that the low end is exploding, and that the high end in tremendous growth, but that space in the middle.
Oh, yeah, it's tweaking.
And was that a space that I always liked that space? I felt like that's where we spent a lot of our time and effort, was in that space where a company wanted to make a video. And they had not a modest budget, but a reasonable budget, and that we provided a great value by doing an incredible video on whatever the given budget was that was reasonable. It wasn't the most amount of money they could have spent Hollywood style, and it wasn't a tight budget or small budget video project, but that corporate video or TV commercial that was well funded, and we provided 3 times perhaps what the budget was in terms of production value. And you think that section is shrinking?
I mean, I think you can look at the cameras that are most popular today and kind of see that that's the case. 10 or 15 years ago, the C300 was just coming out, and that was a camera that was 15 grand. And it sold to a lot of production companies like ours. We have one. And that camera that's replacing that now, that I think is kind of the camera of the day, is the Sony FX6 and the Sony FX3. And those are respectively $4,000 and $6,000 cameras. And the above $6,000 up to $25,000, there just isn't a whole lot in that camera space anymore. And so I think that kind of reflects the budgets, those low to middle budgets, that's still there, and then the ultra high end is still there, and then kind of what exists between that, I think, is evaporated. And I think that's largely because given the great quality of lights and gear and stuff that we have, that what would have costed 50 grand on a production 15, 20 years ago is now possible for dramatically lower. So all the camera gear has to be a little bit lower priced to accommodate that.
In a lot of circles that I run in, and creative professionals that I get the privilege of working with, or agencies or marketing folks that I get the privilege of advising, I see a lot of content creators that, and I love the term content creators because it helps to have a term to describe somebody that's doing some video production that might not be at the level that we would want, but we don't want to say low budget production, or even the term run and gun, or all those terms that would kind of be derogatory towards a young creative or an aspiring creative that's doing some really nice work, but now they're shooting on an Osmo. And so you don't want to say low budget productions.
Sure.
You want to find a way to encourage them. And in many circles, that I run in, people say, well, how can we make this better? Let's say I'm doing a little consulting work for folks, and they say, how can we improve this? And your take on is it okay to call them content creators versus video professionals? And what can we do to, from our vantage point, to say, okay, shooting this on an Osmo.
You know, I know a lot of kind of the YouTube space kind of hates the term content from the video production perspective, hates the term content creators.
Why?
You know, we're filmmakers, right? Well,
Okay.
cinematographers, we're not content creators. But, you know, somebody who is trying to create, for lack of better, content for their business, who they don't have a strong background in video, you know, I think content creators is a great term for that. You know, to me, I think the Osmo is obviously a great little camera. To me, the biggest downside to it, though, is that you're stuck with that 24 millimeter focal length equivalent. And so, you know, if I'm using an Osmo and I'm looking to increase my production value, I think I would start looking at getting a small camera, a Sony a6700 or an FX30 or something like that, and getting a couple different lenses. So you have that 24 millimeter covered, but you can also shoot at something at 35 or 50 or 85. And being able to mix up those focal lengths, I think can add a lot of value to a production.
And then, obviously, on the other end of that, what would be the ultimate setup? In other words, if we were really into the Netflix production realm, and I love this idea I go out to New York a lot, and in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey, they're building the Lionsgate studio, building this huge facility. They're going up all over New Jersey and in the New York area. They're building studios just for Netflix productions.
Yeah.
And what would it take to be a part of that production scene?
So, I mean, Netflix has their approved list of cameras, and there's a certain quality threshold. Obviously, it needs to be 4K, and I think there's a few other things. It needs a time code input, but there's a ton of cameras that meet those specifications. So even something in like the Canon C70 or FX3, those are Netflix certified cameras. But on the high end, you know, a lot of Netflix stuff is shot on Red, and then already just a couple years ago came out with their Alexa 35 that is 4K capable, because their original Alexa was not, and so it was not Netflix approved, despite being the camera that everyone was using for a lot of movies production. So the Alexa 35 is kind of the camera to beat right now, but it's also, you know, upwards of $100,000. But you know, between there's a ton of great options that shoot great picture quality and are still Netflix approved.
I want to get back to what you said about the content creator wants to be called a filmmaker. Now, when I think of content creators that I see on YouTube, and I'll name one of my favorites, couple of themes that he's got going that I like. There's this guy who bought a boat and is traveling the country, giving us video tours of every inland lake on his 24-foot. I don't know if you've seen this.
I have not.
Okay,
Sounds interesting.
we'll roll some video here. I think it's legal for me to pull this video off YouTube and show, because I'm talking about, and then I'm going to recommend that you follow this. So what I mean, he did Lake Norman. There was a lake near Atlanta, Georgia, that he went to. He started in the Florida Keys and did like did Lake Erie. So he did a Put in Bay,
Yeah.
and I'm watching. I'm going, of course, I like boating. Yeah. But what fascinated me is that he has 3 cameras on the boat. Well, one is a drone. And so he went out to this Paradise Lake up in upper Michigan, and it looked like Key West. And he did this. He's got the drone that will follow his boat as he's this is boating right here. So then he's got this other camera, and I have to ask you, he promotes the cameras.
Okay.
So if they were actually listening to what he was saying, I would know this. But he has it mounted in a way that gives a 360 view.
It's like an Insta 360.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is, you've got to see this, the YouTube channel. You can see here so he's out on the boat, but you can just see. But I mean, it's hard enough to get a boat into the water by yourself. Back in the day, I'd have help with the boys. When the boys were 13 and 14, they knew how to drive the truck and trailer out of the water, and I'd put the boat. I had some help. I could not imagine doing this boating YouTube channel, but this guy is a content creator, and he's putting the boat in the water himself, and then he's out there operating the boat and flying the drone, and he's got a selfie stick, and I think that Insta360 is on the end of like a stick.
It is, and they have a stick that is aligned in just such a way that the camera can like crop it out, or you don't see the stick at all. So
Yes.
it looks like there's just a camera floating.
It's fascinating.
Away from you. Yeah.
This is to me, that's a content creator, but I don't think he would care if
Probably not.
those are what I think of content creators, or the ones that do the Travel Channel.
Yeah.
And they ride the Amtrak. That guy that did the Amtrak across into Canada and went to Vancouver, and those to me are content creators.
Sure.
And I think the point to the whole idea is I am fascinated by one individual who can operate a boat and 3 cameras at the same time.
It's impressive.
And what do you think of production at that level and those tools and that? Like, as a video production professional from doing this for how many years, and me having 3 decades in media, I look at this stuff and go, this is unreal.
Yeah. So no, it's incredible. And I think it's, again, kind of the democratization of video production. And I think, how cheap and reasonable it is to acquire all of this stuff. And I don't want to say easy, because it's not easy, but how, compared to how it would have been even 10 or 15 years ago to do this, is why some of the higher end reality TV productions, I think, are struggling now, because a lot of that content is on YouTube, and it's made by either a team of 1 person or 2 or 3 people instead of, an entire crew.
Should anyone in the professional video production world be threatened by any of this, or should we encourage it? I think it's cool. I encourage. I have no issue with it at all. Of course, maybe I'm closer to the end of my career than the beginning. So if I were an upstart, or one of these wonderful young professionals like the crew we have, hanging out here at our operation.
Yeah, I think it's important to diversify your skill set. So, that you're able to adjust kind of as where the industry is going. So if you're kind of stuck in a very specific niche, and that niche disappears because now the guy is doing the video himself on his phone, you might be in trouble. But if you're somebody who's very skilled at making video and can adjust and do different types of productions, I think you'll be able to survive.
You got to reinvent yourself every couple of years.
I think it's important to just stay educated on what's out there and stay up on the new equipment.
There it is. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion, just the view from Akron, Ohio, as we welcome you back to Gear Time here at our new studio. And no more moving. I think we're here to stay. Huh? I think downtown Akron has always been home. And of course, everybody razzes me because I've moved the operation in the 30 plus years that I've been in business. We've had a couple of different addresses.
I think more than a couple.
More than a couple. Yeah. But, well, you got to play that in video production, every dollar counts. So you've got to make sure that you don't do a 10-year lease. You do a 3-year lease with an option. And, that's what could kill you is overhead. So you got to manage everything. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm just saying I've given it my best shot. So there you go. So welcome back to Gear Time. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Educating us as always. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.